Maybe this is your first year of growing your own food, or you're a veteran gardener looking to get back to the basics. I've put together a list of 7 crops which are all straightforward, rewarding and fun to grow. You can't get much simpler or rewarding than the trusty spud. I would recommend growing in a raised bed or a large pot, as it makes harvesting easier. Simply fill it with soil and mix in some compost or well-rotted manure. There are 2 methods of growing potatoes. One is for the lazy gardener like myself, the other is more involved but it will give you a bigger harvest. The lazy way is to simply lay your potato on the soil surface and cover with some hay, compost or some soil, and then just let it grow. I'd recommend this for anyone who hasn't grown potatoes before. The more involved method is to do the same but only part fill the pot. As the potato grows, keep adding more compost to almost cover the plant. Once the pot is full, leave it to grow normally. When the plant flowers, they're ready. Pull the plant out of the pot or bed and then get your hands dirty. Rummage around to find all the potatoes. Don't wash them, just put them in a paper bag or a cardboard box and store them somewhere cool. Wash them when you cook with them. I grew 2 types of turnip last year and both were easy and delicious. You can sow them directly in the ground by sprinkling the seeds over the area and covering with a little compost, or sow them in a cell tray and then transplant them in the ground when the plant has a few healthy leaves. They only take around 3 months to grow and you can harvest them whenever they're the size that you want. Leave them in the ground longer for a bigger root, or eat them small, it's up to you. We're not big salad eaters in this house, so I don't usually bother with salad crops. But spinach is always on my list because it's good for you and it takes up very little space. Grow some in a cell tray, and when the plant has grown up a little, transplant them into a window box or a pot. Harvest the leaves when you need them and cut back any dead leaves to keep the plant healthy. I harvest mine by leaning out of the kitchen window. I told you, I'm a very lazy gardener if I can get away with it. I'd recommend growing in only half the pot and then sowing another batch 5 to 6 weeks after the first, onto the other side. You can then alternate the sides of the pot you're harvesting from to keep you in business for most of the year. You don't need many tomatoes to make a meal, which is why I've put them on this list. You also don't need to be constantly checking on your tomato plants and pinching out side roots if you don't want to. Get them started on your windowsill or in a grow tent and then move them into bigger pots as they grow. Keep them in a sunny location and keep them well watered. Regardless of the size of the adult plant, the amount of fruit it supports will surprise you. Tomato harvests are very much all or nothing though, so I'd recommend sowing your tomato seeds a few weeks apart through the spring and the summer. I loved growing butternut squash last year, and the delicious meals we had as a result guarantees it a place on this list. They do take up lots of space though, so keep that in mind. If you're not a fan of your lawn like me, then the squash plant will be more than happy to trail over it. You can direct sow them in the ground in the summer, or you can get them started indoors earlier. Transplant them out when they look like this, and keep them watered. When the fruit looks like a squash should, cut it off the plant and eat it whole. No, don't eat it whole, that's bad advice. Eat it the way you normally would. I've grouped garlic and shallots together because they're both super straightforward, cheap, and grown in pretty much the same way. Buy a garlic bulb or a pack of shallots from the shop and bung them in the ground with the tip poking out of the soil. When the green foliage goes dry and falls over, pull them out the ground and dry them in the sun for a few days. You really can't go far wrong with either of these, and each will multiply in the ground, giving you much more than you started with. I've got garlic and shallots growing in my garden all year round, and I grow them from the last harvest. And that's my list of 7 things you should consider growing this year, chosen for their ease, cost and enjoyment. Naturally, if you don't like eating some of these, then you should replace them with something else. And let me know what's always on your list of things to grow. And do consider subscribing to the channel. I upload every week, and having your experience in the community will really help us all grow. Speaking of the channel, I've just hit 200 subscribers, which has put the biggest grin on my face and makes me feel very blessed. Thank you to all of you. I have lots of ideas for this year which I'm really looking forward to showing you. Here's some other videos that you may enjoy. Happy growing, everyone!